Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter-in-law for F's sake I have a life and I am not going to be cookie-cutter grandma and I will call the police? My son and daughter-in-law have been married for around 7 years at this point. They have 2 kids. All of my children are out of the home and living their lives. My husband and I are still working and will probably retire in 10 to 15 years. Around 70. My daughter-in-law and I got along much better before the kids came into the picture. They live 30 minutes away and she is always trying to drop them off. I thought my son was in on this, but no. I sat them down and he had no idea this was happening. I showed the many texts asking for me to babysit and he was under the impression that I have only babysat twice this month, not 16 times. Apparently she has been dropping them off with me to hang out with people and my son was under the impression she was taking them with her. I started to communicate in a group chat with them so everyone was on the same page. I only respond to her in the group chat and if she starts to spam me with texts about it I throw a screenshot in the group chat and have my son deal with it. We have talked and it comes down with her wanting her kids to have the same relationship she had with her grandparents. In short, I explained that I am still working and I will not have that relationship. That I can't have the kids every other day just like she had growing up. We agreed to every 2 weeks to have a grandma day. All good for about a year. My son is now traveling for work and she is at it again. The time difference makes it hard to have him shut it down when it happens. I was home for about an hour when she showed up at my home. She wanted me to babysit when she went shopping. I had enough at this point. I told her for F's sake I have my own life, that I will not be the cookie-cutter grandma she wants and if she tries to leave the kids with me from now on without my agreement that I will call the police for abandonment. She called me a jerk and stormed off. My son called trying to smooth it over and saying I may have gone too far. Edit, for everyone going on about how he couldn't know, doesn't he talk to his kids? The kids were 4 months and 1 3/4 years old when she kept dropping them off. They weren't really talking, the oldest sure could move but not a big talker. It really hit off when she was pregnant and got even worse when the second one was born. Top comments. Not the a-hole. That's nice she had that kind of relationship with her grandparents, but absolutely nothing entitles her to force it on you. Good job on the boundaries. Your son needs to step up here too though, and get more involved with his own kids. The group text idea was brilliant and is a great way to keep him in the loop. Opie replies. Don't make assumptions, he is very involved with the kids. When he comes back from trip he will always take the kids out to let her have a chance to herself. He has been to every milestone they have had, he just gave her a weekend trip with her friends for Mother's Day and stayed behind with the kids. He goes to doctor appointment, they switch off childcare mornings and nights. He takes them with him all the time. He spends alone time with the kids. The kids are in daycare so really they have nights together. He is a good father. Not his fault he needed to travel for work so they have money. That's just what happens when you are the main breadwinner, work says go do that you do it. Ugh, she is dreadful, and will apparently never be satisfied until you become her full-time nanny. You are handling this perfectly, by communicating clearly, and by having her husband deal with it. And the police threat was an effective wake-up call she needed. Not the a-hole. No, not the a-hole at all. Damn, Opie, your daughter-in-law is trying to bully you. Not going well for her, lol. But, seriously, she knows exactly what the deal is and she's not confused, unaware, or whatever. She's literally trying to strong-arm you against your will. Please don't continue to engage with her on the basis of what she wants. That is not the issue anymore. You are past that. She is actually harassing you and I wouldn't call the cops about abandonment, but I would for harassment. Showing up at your house uninvited, spamming you with texts, she's being abusive and your son needs to recognize what is going on here. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my ex to sit and take care of his child and taking a business class upgrade to myself? I, 30F, have been dating Matt, 33M, for about a year. Matt has a kid, Alex, from his first relationship. The kid is under 2 years old. Every now and then I used to look after Alex when Matt was at work. We don't live together but they stay at mine every now and then. We decided to go on holiday for 10 days at the start of May, and due to some family drama Alex had to go with us. The flights were over 8 hours long and I have booked the tickets for all of us. During the flight and the holiday I have spent nearly all my time was spent looking after Alex while Matt had the time of his life. Some things came to my attention. He was still seeing his ex, which resulted in us breaking up at the end of our stay. On the flight back we were all sitting together and a flight attendant approached us and asked my ex if he wanted an upgrade to the business class. Before he could say anything I have mentioned it was me who bought the tickets and used my own account to pay for them, so an upgrade should go to me. The flight attendant was trying to argue at first as she assumed Alex was my child, but I told her that's not the case and ended up having an upgrade so I can relax after spending all this time looking after Alex. After the flight, Matt, a few other passengers who assumed I am the mom as well as some family members and friends called me an a-hole for not giving the upgrade to Matt. Even after I have mentioned, the flight attendant didn't say anything about Alex being allowed to join Matt. Top comments. Not the a-hole. Damn OP, that sucks, paying for a flight, in a breakup, taking care of a child on your vacation. You by no means are the a-hole. Hell, the audacity of the ex is unbelievable. It just pissed me off so much that I can't even begin to imagine your frustration. Honestly, I would say move on, but you seem to already be doing that, so I got nothing else to say. Oh, and by the way, the real a-hole is the ex. Wait, why would it be okay for the father to ditch their child to be upgraded to business and not okay for mother to do the same? Even if this isn't the case, but the other passengers seem to think so. This is some sexist crap. Not the a-hole. Dump him. He doesn't seem to appreciate you at all. Not the a-hole. I bet it was probably nice to put some space between you and your brand new ex with such a long flight too. What was he going to do, take the upgrade and leave his young kid with the woman who he just broke up with? There's no world in which that makes any kind of sense. Next story. Am I the a-hole for selling my home that I was allowing my daughter to stay in for free even though she did some upgrades to it? I inherited a home years ago from my mother. It was overall outdated but in good condition. It is 5 hours away from where I live. My daughter, 26, and her husband fell on hard times and I allowed her to move in about 2 years ago for free. It is near the city they work at. I paid for everything and was letting them use it to get back on their feet. I informed them they can make changes to the home, just not to take out walls or any huge stuff. The last time I was at the home was about a year ago and it just looked like they painted. The house is causing issues for my finances now and I have had multiple people reach out to me to sell. I also want to sell it since I am tired of seeing the home. It just reminds me of my mom and that she is gone. So being a landlord isn't good for my mental health. So I decided to sell. I informed my daughter that they have 6 months to find a new place. This started an argument. She apparently put in a lot of upgrades such as redoing the stairs, kitchen, and are in the middle of the bathroom. That I are screwing them over and that now the house is worth more. She called me a jerk for this and I reminded them I gave them 2 years of free housing. I am on the fence and want more opinions. Top comments. Info. Did you have a conversation with your daughter before telling them they had 6 months to move out? Even if she was just a tenant and not your daughter, the polite thing to do is have the conversation before issuing the eviction notice. There's obviously a disconnect between the two of you in terms of upgrades to the house, but regardless, you're going to benefit from the work they've put in. There should be some form of compensation to them. OP. I get your point. You didn't ask or want those changes and saved them over $50,000 of rent. I really do understand your point of view. It's not what I would do, but I get it. But looking at your comments, why even bother asking if you're the a-hole since you can't even consider different points of view? The house is 5 hours away. How is seeing it bad for your mental health? Why didn't you just ask your daughter to start paying rent to cover whatever it's costing you financially? If they're the ones doing the upgrades, and you didn't have to worry about late rent since you didn't charge them any, how is being a landlord bad for your mental health? Seems you like the upgrades, and just want to sell to make a quick buck. Be prepared to never see your daughter or future grandkids ever again. Hope it's worth it. You are the a-hole. Info. How much dollar worth of upgrades did they put into the house and how does that compare to the money they saved on rent over the years? In my opinion, it's unfortunate y'all haven't come to a fair compromise or legal arrangement in advance of this situation happening, because this should be a mutually beneficial situation to you both instead of turning into a fight. Opie replies. I don't know what they spent. I do know how much I saved them. Rent in that area is around $2,000 and ad utilities is about $400. So $2,400 each month. So $2,400 times 24 is equal to $57,600. I highly doubt they put that much into the home. Family first. All of you need to get together and talk about how you can come to a fair resolution. Not having your daughter in your life will be worse on your mental health than not having your mother's house, or the money. You are the a-hole. 100%. Why wouldn't you offer to sell the house to your daughter? How are the house improvements suddenly new information to you? Why is this imaginary problem of seeing a home you haven't visited in a year and being a landlord more important than your daughter's well-being? Why are you blaming your daughter for taking you up on your offer for free rent in a house you inherited for free? No a-hole here, with your daughter leaning into slight a-hole territory. I think it's fair for your daughter to be upset, especially when they're putting work into the house where you'll likely see the return of that effort and they'll have just lost money on investing into the house. This is a risk you take when you do any work on a home you don't own, but it would definitely be disheartening when it's a relative selling the place you've put effort into. But you do have the right to sell, especially if the home is becoming a financial burden to you. You did warn them not to do anything major, and it sounds like they didn't run any of these new changes past you. Do you have the option to sell to them? Opie replies. They can't afford it. The home will probably go for around $400K, $500K. Even when it was outdated, it was a big home, with some land and in a very nice area. I have no idea how much the upgrades will add, and I am not willing to sell less than a fair price. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my parents the baby blanket my great-grandma made for me so they can use it for my baby sister? My great-grandma made a baby blanket for me when my mom was pregnant. She did that for all her kids, grandkids, and then great-grandkids. I was the youngest until now. Great-grandma would make it clear to the parents involved that the baby she made the blankets for should be considered the owner's and it shouldn't be something they kept from us. So this is what always happened. I always had mine. My parents did try to take it from me a few times, but great-grandma stepped in each and every time. I loved mine because she had started experimenting with her knitting, and my blanket is more unique than the rest and feels just a little more personal. I treasure it despite being a 17-year-old guy. I treasure it more because great-grandma died when I was 10 and I miss her like crazy. So my parents couldn't have more kids for years. They tried for years and even did IVF when I was 7 but didn't have another kid from it. Their focus being so set on that, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. This is something extended family brought to their attention a few times. It was comments like, "I just want a baby so bad, I can't imagine my life without a child," from my mom, and comments from my dad like, "We feel so incomplete without a baby," that would get family members to take notice. Those were some of the kinds of comments that left me feeling as I do. It was never another baby, it was always a baby, like I was invisible. They talked about having a baby being their biggest dream. It stung so much to have their life focus around that, and they'd get so depressed about not having a baby. Great-grandma, before she died, told them to be thankful for the blessing, aka me, and how they already had a baby and they were letting me grow up without them. It didn't change anything. And I did basically grow up without my parents. They have no idea who my friends are or what's going on in my life. This was a surprise pregnancy and my parents are so excited. They did all the early tests to find out they're having a girl, and they started shopping and all kinds of stuff for her. But then my mom got sad because great-grandma isn't around to knit her a blanket too. So they told me they wanted mine. They didn't ask. They told me. And when I said no, they grew angry. They said she deserves to have a blanket from great-grandma and their baby needs one. I asked what I was and they said, an almost grown man. I left the blanket with my best friend because I was afraid my parents would search the house to find it. They were so pissed and they started doing the guilt trips, saying my baby sister deserves better and how can I look at myself in the mirror knowing I don't want to share this with her. They told me it's like I don't even want her to exist or I hate her for something and she's not even born yet. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole, the blanket is yours. It was smart of you to give it to a friend for now. Don't give it up, it is heartwarming, it means so much to you. OP replies. It means so much. I think a part of the reason it means so much is because it makes me feel wanted. Like great-grandma loved me, and that blanket is an expression of that I never feel or get with my parents. Not the a-hole, your parents' comments are so weird. But out of interest, you said she made blanket for all the kids, grandkids, etc., so basically your parents have their own blanket to give to the baby. OP replies. Yep, my mom has one and she could give it to their baby if that's so important. But I think this is just another way of them pushing me out. Not the a-hole. Don't let you be guilt-tripped by them. It seems they just want a baby. Something to cuddle and who is depending on them. And as soon as the baby outgrows to need them all the time, the baby is basically an adult and they want another baby. I'm sorry that they are like that to you. And no, it doesn't mean that you hate the new baby. It means you don't want to share what you got from a beloved family member with the child that was always hold over you, even way before it existed. It was a wise decision to leave the blanket with your best friend, because it sounds like your parents wouldn't respect your wish. Hope the rest of your family treats you better and you have someone to talk to or relay on. Best cut off your parents as soon as you can or go LC. Don't think that they will even notice, until you will get a parent yourself and they could spoil another grandbaby. OP replies. They were like that before I even grew up any. They were already very focused on another baby before I turned one. I was dropped off with extended family all the time back then so they could work on baby number 2. Maybe they wanted a daughter badly. Or maybe they struggled to connect with me. But they didn't even bask in all the baby time they had with me before their focused moved on. The rest of my family, well, most of it anyway, are good and they don't treat me the way my parents do or like the way my parents treat me. Not the a-hole. Your wonderful great-grandma was very specific that it was yours, not theirs. Also, your baby sister will never have met her, so it won't mean anything to her anyway. What your parents need to do is to make their own, knit, quilt or whatever, and keep the tradition going that way. I had a patchwork baby quilt that was made up of beautiful fabric scraps from clothes my grandmother had made. She did a lot of dressmaking and kept the scraps. As I got older, I started to recognize them in the clothes she wore, which was lovely. OP replies. That's a great idea for them, or they can give her my mom's blanket since mom wants her to have a blanket made by great-grandma so bad. But I think this is also sorta them pushing me out more. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel our posts.